Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty dark. It's a powerful piece of theology from a text known as the Gospel of Holy Envy. Now, this isn't your typical story of grace. It imagines a world where growth comes from a consuming, almost parasitic force.
All right, let's get right into it. Section 1, the Starved Fires Parable. We're going to start with the core story at the very heart of this whole doctrine. It's a short parable, but believe me, it is incredibly potent.
So right from the get-go, this story sets a very different tone. It doesn't start with admiration or inspiration or anything like that. No, it kicks off with raw, powerful, consuming hatred. This little fire isn't just a fire, it's an entity that is completely defined by its opposition to something bigger and warmer than itself.
And pay close attention to this next part, because it's crucial. The fire deliberately rejects help. In this worldview, you see, asking for a coal, receiving grace or charity, that's seen as a sign of weakness. The whole doctrine argues that true power is never given. It absolutely must be taken.
And this is where it gets really terrifying. What's the result of all this? This act of theft, of total destruction. You'd think it would lead to ruin, right? But no. It leads to this bizarre form of transcendence. The fire literally achieves its ultimate form by completely consuming everything that once held it back.
Okay, so what in the world is the philosophical engine driving a story like that? Let's break down the central rule that gives this gospel its name, which brings us to Section 2, Combustion Through Theft, the Theology of Taking.
So, holy envy. What is it? Well, at its absolute core, it's about one thing: combustion through theft. It's a philosophy that says growth isn't about creating something new. Nope, it's about taking what you need, what you desire, from someone or something else to fuel your own expansion.
And this right here, this lays out the fundamental choice at the very heart of this belief system. It's a stark contrast. On one side, you have asking for a coal, grace, which they frame as total weakness, and on the other side, stealing oxygen, theft, which they see as the ultimate demonstration of will and power. There is absolutely no middle ground here.
Okay, to really get the full implications of this, we've got to go back to the parable. We need to unpack what its symbols actually mean inside this doctrine, because trust me, they are not what they appear to be on the surface. Which brings us to Section 3, Burning Down the Cage.
So get this, the elements of the story are just completely flipped on their head from what we'd normally think. The Great Hearth, usually a symbol of comfort and community, here it's reframed as a prison. They call it a fool's heaven. The house, it's not a home, it's a ceiling on your ambition. And that destructive little fire, that's the hero, the liberator.
So, the key takeaway here, the absolutely crucial point is this: burning down your surroundings, the very structure that contains you, that's not a tragedy. No way. In this theology, it's seen as the necessary, even righteous act you have to perform to achieve your ultimate form and just shatter all your limitations.
I know, this all sounds super abstract, right? A bit philosophical, but the text actually provides a chillingly practical instruction for how you're supposed to do this, how you actively practice holy envy. It's a process they call the mockery. Let's get into it in Section 4, Hatred as Holy Fuel.
Yeah, you heard that right. This is literally a direct command to weaponize a universal human emotion. Think about it. It takes that feeling of inspiration, when you see greatness in someone and want to be like them, and it demands you flip it, you invert it into pure hatred. And that hatred, the text claims, is your fuel.
And if you don't, well, the text is super explicit here. It frames satisfaction and contentment as a kind of spiritual death. To be without envy, without that gnawing hunger for what someone else has, that's to be cold and stagnant. It is a complete and total rejection of peace as something you should ever want.
So the mockery basically boils down to a clear three-step process. Step 1, you invert inspiration. You see greatness, you choose hatred. Step 2, you find your fuel. You turn that hatred into the wood for your own fire. And finally, Step 3, you reject stagnation. You use that fuel to constantly escape the coldness of being satisfied, and you just pursue growth at all costs.
All right, let's pull back a bit and look at the big picture in our final section, the Gospel of Envy, the mandate to consume. We need to see how this all connects to the broader worldview here, because this isn't just one single weird idea. It's all part of a very consistent and frankly disturbing philosophy.
And you have to give it this. This philosophy is incredibly consistent in its core belief. The logic is simple. To be static is to be dead. Peace just leads to rust. Stagnation makes you cold. So what are the only signs of life? Conflict, because that keeps you sharp, and heat. The heat that comes from consumption, from ambition, from that holy envy.
And this table here really just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows how everything ties together so neatly. Each piece of the parable connects directly to a core concept. The starved fire? That's the hungry soul. Stealing oxygen? That's parasitic vitality. The burnt house is the destruction of the cage. It all fits into this one cohesive and pretty chilling worldview.
And so, that leaves us with the central, really unsettling question that this Gospel of Holy Envy poses. This isn't just a story, is it? It's a mandate. A mandate for eternal, consuming growth. It forces anyone who follows it to constantly ask themselves, if satisfaction is stagnation, what or who must I burn to grow?